we're going to be using two formulas in this chapter. They both look pretty much the same. Your first one is that the final amount will equal the initial amount times 1 plus r over n to the nt. So in all these formulas, A stands for the final amount, P stands for the initial amount, for principal, P for principal, R is the rate. It's always a decimal. Make sure if they give you a percent, you change it straight to a decimal. And N is the number of times you compound per year. So it's the number of times you compound per year. So for example, if you were compounding quarterly, N would be 4. If you were compounding monthly, N would be 12. If you were compounding yearly, N would be 1. If you're compounding daily, N would be 365. So, and we'll get to that in the problems. And so then, they have, in your book, they have this silly present value formula because they don't think you know algebra. All they do is they solve for P by dividing the whole thing by this chunk. So when they divide everything by this chunk, they get that P equals A divided by 1 plus R over N to the NT. It's the same formula, just rearranged. They're going to call this the present value formula and this the compound interest formula. So those are our formulas. I'll use them both just because the book uses them both, and we'll see what we can do with them. So the first problem is number 9, and they have $2,000 for 4 years at 3%, and so that $2,000 is the initial amount. So, and they want to know the final amount. So the final amount is going to be the initial amount, that 2,000, times 1 plus, the rate is 3%, so I'm going to write that as 0.03, and I'm compounding quarterly, so I'm compounding 4 times a year, so n is 4, and then n again is 4, and I'm putting it in for 4 years. So that's my setup. All I have to do is crank this out on my calculator, and I want to show you the safest way to do it. It might take a little while, but we're just going to go step by step, and you can play with your calculator to see if you can do it other ways. So I'm going to do this part in the parentheses first. 0.03 divided by 4 is 0.0075. So just that part there. And if I add the 1, I get 1.0075. Then 4 times 4 is 16. Next we want to do this part. So this 1.0075 to the 16th power. Now that on your calculator is either going to look like, on mine it looks like this y to the x button here. I don't know if you can see that. And I'm just going to hit 1.0075 and raise that to the 16th power. On yours it might look like a caret, so you might be looking for that symbol. And do 1.005 raised to the 16th, and you're going to get 2,000 times 1.126992. So now if you just multiply those two together, you get 2253.98. So that should be the final answer. Let me check it. Yep, we're looking good. And so that's the final amount. And if they want to know the interest earned, your interest is just the final amount minus what you started with. So we ended up with this much money, but we started off with $2,000, so that means we made $253.98 in interest. So there's your interest, and there's your final amount, and that's number 9.